The morning sun was barely peeking over the Montana mountains when Jake Morrison heard the knock at his front door. He glanced at the old clock on his kitchen wall. 6 in the morning, right on time. Jake set down his coffee mug and walked to the door, expecting to see Mrs. Henderson, the elderly woman from the cleaning service in town. He'd finally given in and hired help after his 6-year-old daughter Lily had pointed out that their house smells funny and Daddy doesn't know how to clean the bathroom right. Jake opened the door and froze. Standing on his porch was not Mrs. Henderson. Instead, a young woman with dark hair pulled back in a neat ponytail smiled at him politely. She wore simple jeans and a white t-shirt, but even in work clothes, she was stunning. Her dark eyes were intelligent and kind, and there was something about her that seemed oddly out of place for someone coming to clean his ranch house. "Mr. Morrison?" she asked, her voice soft but confident. "I'm Maria Santos from Happy Home Cleaning. Mrs. Henderson is sick today, so they sent me instead." Jake blinked, still processing. Behind Maria, he could see a car that definitely didn't belong to any cleaning lady he knew. It was a sleek black sedan, expensive looking, without estate plates. Before he could respond, he heard the patter of small feet behind him. "Daddy, who's at the door?" Lily appeared at his side, still in her pajamas, her blonde hair sticking up in every direction. When she saw Maria, her blue eyes went wide. Without any hesitation or filter, like only a 6-year-old can manage, Lily announced loudly enough for the entire county to hear, "Daddy, she's so pretty. Can I call her Mama?" The silence that followed was deafening. Jake felt his face turn red hot. Maria's professional smile faltered, and she looked genuinely shocked. Jake wanted the ground to open up and swallow him whole. "Lily," Jake managed to choke out. "You can't just—" "I'm sorry, Miss Santos. She lost her mother 2 years ago, and sometimes she says things." Maria recovered quickly, though Jake noticed she seemed to take a step back. "It's perfectly fine, Mr. Morrison. Children say what's on their minds." She looked down at Lily with a gentle but distant smile. "Hello, sweetheart. I'm Maria, and I'm just here to help clean your house today." Lily wasn't deterred by the adult awkwardness around her. "Are you married? Do you have kids? How old are you?" "Daddy's really lonely, and I think you're the prettiest lady I've ever seen." Jake grabbed Lily's shoulders gently. "That's enough questions, sweetheart. Miss Santos has work to do." He looked up at Maria apologetically. "I'm really sorry about this." She's usually not so direct. "It's really okay," Maria said, but Jake noticed she was fidgeting with her hands. That's when he saw it, a faint tan line on her ring finger where a wedding band had been. Recently removed by the looks of it. Jake stepped aside to let Maria in, carrying her cleaning supplies. As she passed, he caught a whiff of expensive perfume. Nothing like what he'd expect from someone in her line of work. Everything about her seemed wrong for a house cleaner. Her hands were soft, not rough from years of scrubbing. Her posture was confident, educated. Even the way she spoke was refined. "The house is pretty straightforward," Jake said, leading her through the living room. Kitchen, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Nothing fancy. He paused, watching as Maria's eyes swept over the room, taking in the family photos on the mantel, the stack of medical journals his late wife Sarah had left behind, and Lily's artwork covering the refrigerator. "Your wife was a nurse?" Maria asked, nodding toward the journals. "She was studying to be one," Jake replied quietly. "Cancer got her before she could finish." Something shifted in Maria's expression, a flash of pain that seemed too deep for a stranger's sympathy. "I'm sorry for your loss," she said, and her voice carried a weight that suggested she knew exactly what loss felt like. Over the next 3 hours, Jake found excuses to stay inside instead of heading out to work on the ranch like he usually did. He told himself he needed to keep an eye on Lily, but the truth was he was fascinated by Maria Santos. She worked with an efficiency he'd never seen before, transforming his house from lived-in chaos to spotless perfection. But it was the little things that caught his attention. When Lily struggled with her math homework at the kitchen table, Maria glanced over and casually said, Try carrying the 2 to the next column, honey. It was advanced math for a first grader, and Maria had solved it in her head while scrubbing the stovetop. Later, when she was dusting Sarah's bookshelf, he heard her quietly quote Shakespeare under her breath. "The course of true love never did run smooth," she murmured, handling the old volume of poems with the care of someone who understood literature. But the moment that really stopped Jake in his tracks came when Maria was cleaning the bathroom, and he heard her speaking in what sounded like medical terminology. He couldn't make out all the words through the door, but he distinctly heard myocardial infarction and post-operative complications. When Maria emerged from the bathroom, Jake was waiting in the hallway. "Miss Santos," he began, but she quickly interrupted him. "All finished, Mr. Morrison. Same time Wednesday." She was already gathering her supplies, suddenly seeming eager to leave. "Actually, I was wondering," Jake started, but Maria was already heading for the door. Lily ran up and hugged Maria's legs. "Will you come back, please? I like you so much better than Mrs. Henderson. She smells like mothballs and never talks to me." Maria's professional mask slipped for just a moment, and Jake saw something vulnerable in her eyes. She gently patted Lily's head. "I'll see you Wednesday, sweetheart." As Maria loaded her supplies into that expensive car, Jake stood on his porch watching her leave. Nothing about Maria Santos made sense. Who was she really? And why was someone with her obvious intelligence and education cleaning houses in rural Montana? He had a feeling that Wednesday couldn't come fast enough. Wednesday couldn't arrive fast enough for Lily Morrison. She woke up at dawn, pressed her nose against the living room window, and announced to anyone who would listen, "Today's a Maria day." Jake found himself checking his watch more often than usual, and when that familiar black sedan pulled into his driveway at exactly 6 in the morning, his heart did something strange in his chest. "She's here. She's here." Lily bounded to the door before Jake could even set down his coffee. When Maria walked in carrying her cleaning supplies, Lily immediately launched into a detailed report of everything that had happened since Monday. "Daddy burned the pancakes yesterday, and our cow Bessie had a baby, and I drew you a picture." Maria's reserved demeanor softened as Lily thrust a crayon drawing into her hands. It was clearly meant to be a family portrait: a tall man, a little girl, and a woman with long dark hair, all holding hands in front of a house. "That's beautiful, Lily," Maria said, and Jake noticed her voice was genuinely warm. "Can I keep this? Really? You want to keep it?" Lily beamed like she'd just been given the greatest gift in the world. Over the following weeks, a routine developed that felt natural to all of them. Maria came every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Lily would wake up extra early on those days, help make breakfast, and chatter nonstop to Maria while she worked. Jake found himself taking longer morning coffee breaks, fixing things around the house that didn't really need fixing, anything to stay close to the easy warmth that Maria brought to their home. He learned small things about her during those weeks. She hummed while she worked, usually classical music that Jake didn't recognize but somehow found soothing. She was gentle with Lily but never talked down to her, treating the 6-year-old like a person worth listening to. And she had a way of noticing things, like how Jake favored his left shoulder after a long day working cattle, or how Lily's reading books were too easy for her advanced mind. You know, she might be ready for chapter books, Maria mentioned one Friday, nodding toward Lily, who was sprawled on the living room floor with a picture book. "She's reading at least 2 grade levels above her age." Jake looked at his daughter with surprise. "Really? How can you tell?" "She's already finished that book twice while I've been cleaning this room," Maria said with a small smile. "And yesterday, I saw her sounding out words from one of those medical journals on the shelf." It was moments like these that made Jake more curious about Maria Santos. She noticed things that only someone with experience around children would catch. She moved through his house with an efficiency that spoke of someone who understood systems and organization. And there were times when he'd catch her looking at the family photos on his mantle with an expression of such deep sadness that it made his chest ache. The turning point came on a Friday evening in late September. Jake had been looking forward to Maria's visit all week, which should have worried him, but didn't. Lily had been excited too, planning to show Maria the new foal in the barn. But when Jake came in from the afternoon chores, he found Lily curled up on the couch, burning with fever. "Hey, baby girl," Jake said, pressing his hand to her forehead. The heat coming off her small body sent panic shooting through him. It was the same fever that had taken Sarah, sudden, aggressive, dangerous. "How long have you been feeling sick?" "Since lunch," Lily whimpered. "My head hurts, Daddy, and I'm so hot, but I'm cold too." Jake's hands shook as he reached for the thermometer. 104 degrees. His vision blurred with fear and terrible memories. Sarah had started with a fever just like this. By the time they got her to the hospital, it was too late. The infection had spread too fast. That's when Maria walked through the front door for her usual cleaning appointment. She took one look at Jake's pale face and Lily's flushed cheeks and immediately set down her supplies. "What's wrong?" "Fever," Jake managed to say. "I need to get her to the hospital in town, but it's an hour drive and I don't know if I should move her when she's this hot." Maria was across the room in 3 steps. She placed her hand on Lily's forehead with the practiced ease of someone who had done this before, then gently felt the child's neck and looked at her throat. "Has she been drinking fluids?" "Any vomiting?" "A little water." "No vomiting yet." Jake watched in amazement as Maria's entire demeanor shifted. Gone was the polite house cleaner. In her place was someone confident, knowledgeable, completely in control. "We need to get her temperature down first," Maria said calmly. "Do you have children's fever reducer? And I need cool washcloths, not cold. We don't want to shock her system." For the next 2 hours, Maria took charge with quiet competence. She monitored Lily's temperature, made sure she stayed hydrated, and sat beside the couch reading stories in a voice that somehow made both Lily and Jake feel calmer. By 8 o'clock, Lily's fever had broken and she was sleeping peacefully. Jake found Maria in his kitchen, washing the dishes she'd used to care for his daughter. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I don't know what I would have done without you tonight. I was so scared I couldn't think straight." Maria turned around, and for the first time since he'd met her, her professional mask was completely gone. "I couldn't just leave. She needed help. How did you know what to do? You handled that like—" Jake paused, searching for the right words. "Like a doctor." Maria's face went pale. For a moment, Jake thought she might tell him the truth, whatever it was. But then she looked away and said quietly, "I used to be a doctor, in another life." The words hung between them in the quiet kitchen. Jake wanted to ask more, but something in Maria's expression warned him not to push. Instead, he said, "Whatever happened in that other life, I'm grateful you were here tonight." When Lily woke up the next morning feeling completely normal, her first words were, "Where's Maria? Did she stay all night to take care of me?" Jake looked at his daughter, healthy and bright-eyed, and realized something that scared him more than Lily's fever had. Somewhere over the past few weeks, Maria Santos had become essential to their lives, and he still had no idea who she really was. Saturday morning arrived crisp and clear, with the kind of autumn sunshine that made Montana look like a postcard. Jake was in the barn checking on the new foal when he heard a car door slam in his driveway. He frowned, checking his watch. 9 a.m. on a Saturday. Maria wasn't scheduled to come today. But when he walked outside, there she was, standing beside her car with a small backpack and looking almost nervous. "Maria?" Jake called out, surprised but pleased. "Everything okay?" "I was in the neighborhood," she said quickly, then seemed to realize how ridiculous that sounded. They were 20 miles from town, with nothing but ranch land in every direction. Her cheeks turned pink. I was driving around and thought maybe Lily might like to see more of the area. If you're not busy, that is. Before Jake could respond, Lily came flying out of the house like she'd been shot from a cannon. "Maria, you came on a Saturday. Daddy, did you know she was coming? This is the best surprise ever." Jake studied Maria's face. There was something different about her today. She seemed less guarded, more vulnerable. Her usual professional composure was replaced by something that looked almost like longing. "We'd love the company," he said. "I was just about to take Lily hiking up to Crystal Falls. Want to join us?" The relief in Maria's eyes was so obvious it made Jake's chest tighten. "I like that very much." The next few hours unfolded like something out of a dream. They hiked the familiar trail that Jake had walked hundreds of times, but seeing it through Maria's eyes made it feel new again. She pointed out wildflowers that Jake had never noticed, knew their names, and which ones were used by Native Americans for medicine. Lily hung on her every word, collecting a bouquet of autumn blooms while Maria told stories about how each plant had been used by people long ago. "How do you know so much about flowers?" Lily asked, skipping ahead with her arms full of golden aspen leaves. Maria glanced at Jake before answering. "My grandmother taught me. She believed that nature had medicine for everything if you knew where to look." At the falls, they spread out an old blanket Jake had brought and shared the lunch Maria had mysteriously packed. Sandwiches cut into perfect triangles, fresh fruit, and cookies that tasted homemade. Jake found himself relaxing in a way he hadn't in years, watching Maria and Lily build towers out of smooth river stones while the water rushed past them. "This is what families do, right, Daddy?" Lily announced, not looking up from her stone castle. "They go on adventures together and have picnics and laugh a lot." Jake's throat tightened. "Yes, sweetheart. That's exactly what families do." When he looked over at Maria, she was watching him with an expression so tender it made his heart skip. For a moment, he could almost pretend this was real, that she belonged here with him, that this perfect day didn't have to end. The afternoon stretched on like honey, golden and sweet. Maria taught Lily how to skip stones across the quiet pools below the falls. She braided wildflowers into the little girl's hair and listened with complete attention to Lily's elaborate stories about the fairy kingdom she was building with sticks and leaves. Jake found himself falling deeper with every laugh, every gentle touch Maria gave his daughter, every moment when she looked at him like he was something precious. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, they packed up their things for the walk back. But Lily was tired, and Jake ended up carrying her piggyback style while she dozed against his shoulder. Maria walked beside them, and in the fading light, they looked exactly like what Lily had said, a family. "Thank you for today," Jake said quietly, not wanting to wake Lily. "I can't remember the last time I saw her this happy." "Thank you for letting me be part of it," Maria replied, her voice soft. "I didn't realize how much I needed a day like this." They were almost back to the house when Jake made his decision. He'd been thinking about it all day, watching Maria with his daughter, feeling the rightness of having her there. Life was short. Sarah's death had taught him that much. And if there was a chance for happiness, for love, shouldn't he take it? "Maria," he said, stopping on the path. She turned to face him, and in the golden light of sunset, she looked so beautiful it took his breath away. "I need to tell you something." She went very still. "Jake, I'm falling in love with you," he said simply. "I know we haven't known each other long, and I know there are things about your past you're not ready to share. But I can't pretend anymore that what I feel is just gratitude or friendship." For a moment, Maria's face lit up with something that looked like pure joy. She took a step toward him, and Jake thought his heart might burst out his chest. "Jake, are you going to kiss her, Daddy?" Lily's sleepy voice interrupted from Jake's back. "Because that's what people do in movies when they love each other." Jake and Maria both laughed, the tension breaking but not disappearing. "Maybe we should get you home and in a bed first, little matchmaker," Jake said. But as they walked the last few yards to the house, Jake felt Maria take his free hand in hers. It was answer enough for now. They were at the front steps when Maria suddenly stopped. Her hand tightened on Jake's, and he felt her whole body go rigid. Following her gaze, he saw what had caught her attention. A black SUV with tinted windows parked on the road about a quarter mile away, just visible in the growing darkness. "Maria?" Jake said, alarm bells going off in his head at her expression of pure terror. I have to go, she said, already pulling away from him. Right now. Wait, what's wrong? Who is that? But Maria was already running to her car, her face white with fear. She drove away without another word, leaving Jake standing on his porch with a sleeping child on his back and a dozen unanswered questions burning in his mind. In the distance, the black SUV's engine started, and it slowly followed the direction Maria had gone. Whatever Maria Santos was running from, Jake realized with a chill, it had just found her. Jake didn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Maria's face, white with terror, as she ran from something he couldn't see or understand. By dawn, he'd made his decision. He needed answers, and he needed them now. After getting Lily settled with cartoons and breakfast, he drove straight to town. The sheriff's office in Sweetwater had one computer with internet access, and Sheriff Tom Bradley was an old friend who owed Jake a favor from when Jake had helped track down cattle rustlers the previous spring. Need to run a background check, Jake said without preamble. It's important, Tom. What kind of trouble you got yourself into, Morrison? Tom asked, but he was already turning on the computer. Maybe the good kind, maybe the dangerous kind. I need to find out which. Jake handed him a slip of paper with Maria's name written on it. Maria Santos, about 28 years old, works for Happy Home Cleaning. 20 minutes later, Tom was frowning at the computer screen. That's strange, Jake. I'm not finding anything. No driver's license under that name in Montana, no employment records, no credit history. It's like she doesn't exist. Jake's stomach dropped. What does that mean? Could mean she's using a fake name. Could mean she's running from something. Could mean she's in witness protection. Tom leaned back in his chair. Where'd you meet this woman? She's been cleaning my house for a month. Tom, there's something else. Jake told him about the black SUV, about Maria's panic, about all the little things that hadn't added up. I think she might be in real trouble. You want my advice? Stay away from her until we know more. If she's running from the kind of people who drive unmarked SUVs, you don't want to get caught in the crossfire. But Jake couldn't stay away. On the drive home, he kept thinking about Maria's gentle hands caring for Lily during her fever, the way she'd looked at his daughter like she was precious, the moment when she'd taken his hand and made him believe in love again. Whatever she was running from, she didn't deserve to face it alone. That afternoon, while Lily napped, Jake made another discovery. He was putting away laundry in the guest room, where Maria had left her cleaning supplies during Lily's fever. Behind the bed, he found a thick book that must have fallen from her bag. It was a medical textbook, well-worn and full of handwritten notes in the margins. On the inside cover, in elegant script, was an inscription, Dr. Maria Santos Chun, Johns Hopkins class of 2018. May you save as many lives as you've already touched. Dr. Patricia Williams. Jake stared at the inscription. Dr. Maria Santos Chun. Not just a doctor from one of the best medical schools in the country. And that hyphenated last name suggested she'd been married. The wedding ring tan line suddenly made perfect sense. Back at Tom's computer an hour later, Jake typed in the new name. This time, the results were immediate and overwhelming. Dr. Maria Santos Chun, cardiac surgeon, age 28, graduated top of her class from Johns Hopkins. Married to Dr. Richard Chun, prominent Chicago surgeon. And then, 6 months ago, everything changed. The Chicago Tribune headline made Jake's blood run cold. Prominent surgeon dies in suspicious accident. Wife questioned in medical conspiracy case. The article was brief but damning. Dr. Richard Chun had died when his car went off a bridge during a snowstorm. Police suspected brake failure, but the investigation was ongoing. His wife, Dr. Maria Santos Chun, had been questioned about her knowledge of a medical malpractice conspiracy involving several Chicago hospitals. Jake scrolled through more articles, his heart pounding. The conspiracy was huge. Doctors taking bribes to recommend unnecessary surgeries, insurance fraud, patients dying from procedures they never needed. And Maria, it seemed, had been the whistleblower who exposed it all. Hospital insider turned state's evidence in medical fraud case, read another headline. Dr. Maria Santos-Chin testifies before grand jury. But then just 2 months ago, the article stopped. The last one was ominous. Key witness missing, federal investigation stalled. Tom whistled low as he read over Jake's shoulder. Your cleaning lady is in a world of trouble, my friend. If she was set to testify against people with this much money and power, and now she's disappeared. They killed her husband, Jake said quietly, the pieces falling into place. And now they're after her. Looks that way. Jake, you need to get your daughter and get out of town. Tonight. These aren't the kind of people who care about collateral damage. But even as Tom said it, Jake knew he couldn't run. Maria had been hiding, alone and terrified for months. She'd found something like peace with him and Lily, and he'd be damned if he was going to abandon her now. I need to find her first. Jake, don't be stupid. This is way bigger than you can handle. Then help me handle it. You know people in the U.S. Marshal's office. If she's willing to testify, they can protect her. Tom was already shaking his head. Even if I could reach the right people, even if they believed us, it would take days to set up. You don't have days, Jake. If those people in the SUV are who I think they are, you might not have hours. Jake thought about Maria's terror-stricken face, about Lily asking when Maria would come back, about the love confession that had been interrupted by danger. I have to try. He found Maria at the Sleepy Inn Motel on the outskirts of town, parked outside room 12. Her expensive car looked out of place in the rundown parking lot. When Jake knocked on the door, he heard her frightened voice ask, "Who is it?" "It's Jake. We need to talk." The door opened slowly, and Maria appeared, still beautiful, but looking haunted and exhausted. "You shouldn't be here. It's not safe. I know who you are," Jake said gently. "Dr. Maria Santos-Chin. I know about your husband, about the conspiracy, about why you're running." Maria's face crumpled, and all her strength seemed to leave her at once. "They killed Richard, and they won't stop until they kill me too." Maria looked at Jake through the motel room doorway, her eyes filled with a mixture of relief and terror. "You have to leave. Right now. If they see you here with me, they'll kill you too." "Nobody's killing anybody," Jake said firmly, stepping into the small room. "We're going to fix this, but I need you to trust me. Pack your things. You're coming back to the ranch." "Jake, you don't understand. These aren't ordinary criminals. They have money, connections, professional killers. My husband thought he was safe too, and they made his death look like an accident." Maria's hand shook as she spoke. "I won't let them hurt you or Lily, and I won't let them hurt you." Jake pulled out his cell phone. "My brother-in-law Danny works for the U.S. Marshal's office in Denver. We're going to send him a telegram first thing tomorrow morning. Tell him everything. If you're willing to testify, they can protect all of us." Maria stared at him like he was speaking a foreign language. "You do that? Risk everything for someone you barely know?" "I know everything I need to know," Jake said quietly. "You're kind, you're brave, you love my daughter, and you make me want to believe in love again. That's enough." For the first time since he'd knocked on her door, Maria smiled. It was shaky and fearful, but it was real. "Okay, but we do this my way. If there's even a hint of danger to Lily, I disappear again." "Deal. Deal." They drove back to the ranch separately, Maria following Jake's truck in her sedan. The sun was setting behind the mountains, painting the sky the same shades of orange and pink as their perfect day at the falls. It felt like a lifetime ago instead of just 24 hours. Lily was waiting on the front porch when they pulled up, and she launched herself into Maria's arms like a missile. "You came back. Daddy said you might not come back, but I knew you would because you love us, right?" Maria hugged the little girl tight, and Jake saw tears in her eyes. "Yes, sweetheart. I love you both very much." That evening felt almost normal. They made dinner together, Maria teaching Lily how to fold dumplings while Jake handled the soup. They played board games by the fireplace, and for a few hours, Jake could almost forget about conspiracies and killers and the danger lurking outside their warm circle of light. But at midnight, reality came crashing back. Jake woke to the sound of Belle, his horse, whinnying in distress from the barn. In 35 years of living on the ranch, he learned to trust animal instincts. Something was wrong. He slipped out of bed, grabbed his rifle from the closet, and crept to the window. In the moonlight, he could see two dark figures moving toward the house. His blood turned to ice. Professional killers, just like Maria had warned him. Jake moved quickly and quietly to the guest room where Maria was sleeping. "Maria," he whispered, shaking her shoulder. "Wake up. They're here." She was instantly alert, the way people who've been running for their lives learn to be. "How many?" "Two that I can see. Maybe more." Jake was already moving toward Lily's room. "We need to get Lily and get out of here." But they were too late. The sound of breaking glass came from the kitchen, followed by heavy footsteps. Maria grabbed Lily, who was just waking up confused and frightened, while Jake positioned himself between his family and the danger. "Back door," Jake whispered. "Head for the barn. There's a root cellar behind it where you can hide." "What about you?" Maria clutched Lily tighter. "I'm going to buy you time. Go. Now." The next few minutes passed in a blur of terror and adrenaline. Jake had served 2 tours in Afghanistan before coming home to take over the family ranch, and those military instincts kicked in now. He knew his property better than anyone, knew every shadow and hiding place. The 2 intruders were good, but they were in unfamiliar territory. The first man came around the corner into the living room cautiously, gun drawn. Jake was waiting behind the stone fireplace, and he took the intruder down with the butt of his rifle before the man could react. The second killer heard the commotion and came running, but Jake was already moving, using the darkness and his knowledge of the house layout to his advantage. Outside, he could hear Maria calling his name from somewhere near the barn. "Stay hidden," he shouted back, then cursed himself for giving away his position. A bullet splintered the doorframe inches from his head. The second gunman was smarter, more patient. For several minutes, they played a deadly game of cat and mouse through Jake's house, each trying to get a clear shot without exposing himself. Jake was starting to think he might actually have a chance when he heard the sound that made his blood freeze, a car engine starting up near the barn. They weren't just here to kill Maria. They were here to take Lily. Something primal and savage took over Jake then. This was his child, his family, and he would die before he let anyone hurt them. He charged out of the house, no longer caring about strategy or safety, only about getting to his daughter before these monsters could take her away. What he found in the barnyard made his heart soar with relief and pride. Maria had somehow gotten behind the wheel of one of the killer's cars and was ramming it repeatedly into the side of the barn, making so much noise that it could probably be heard for miles. Lily was safe in the passenger seat, looking more excited than scared. "The cavalry's coming, Jake," Maria shouted over the sound of crushing metal. "I sent that telegram hours ago using the old telegraph at the train station. Danny's people should be here any minute." As if on cue, Jake heard the sound of helicopters approaching from the east and saw the lights of multiple vehicles racing up his long driveway. The remaining gunman, realizing he was about to be outnumbered by federal agents, threw down his weapon and surrendered. It was over. Finally, incredibly, it was over. As U.S. Marshals swarmed his property and took the killers into custody, Jake pulled Maria and Lily into his arms. "It's finished," he said into Maria's hair. "You're safe now. We all are. Does this mean Maria can stay forever now?" Lily asked, looking up at them with hopeful eyes. Jake looked at Maria, and she looked back at him, and they both started laughing with relief and joy in the sheer impossibility of their survival. "Yes, sweetheart," Jake said. "I think it does." 6 months had passed since the night that changed everything. The Montana winter had been harsh, but spring was finally arriving with its promise of new beginnings. Jake stood on his front porch, coffee mug in hand, watching the sunrise paint the mountains in shades of gold and pink. It still amazed him how much his life had changed since that first morning when Maria knocked on his door. The investigation had moved quickly once the U.S. Marshals got involved. The two men who attacked the ranch were professional killers hired by the medical conspiracy Maria had exposed. With their testimony and Maria's evidence, the entire corrupt network in Chicago had crumbled. Doctors, hospital administrators, and insurance executives were all facing federal charges. Maria's nightmare was finally over. But more importantly, his real life was just beginning. "Daddy, is Maria coming for breakfast?" Lily's voice called from inside the house, and Jake smiled. "Something's never changed." "She'll be here soon, sweetheart," Jake called back. Maria had kept her own small apartment in town, wanting to take things slowly after everything they'd been through. But she spent most evenings at the ranch, and Lily had started calling her visits family time. The sound of a car engine made Jake look up from his coffee. Maria's new truck, a practical red pickup that fit much better with ranch life than her old sedan, was coming up the driveway. She'd been working at Sweetwater General Hospital for 4 months now, and the town had embraced her like she'd always belonged there. It turned out rural Montana needed a skilled cardiac surgeon just as much as Chicago had. "Maria's here," Lily shrieked from inside, and Jake heard her feet pounding toward the door. Maria climbed out of her truck wearing jeans, boots, and a smile that still made Jake's heart skip a beat. She'd let her hair grow longer, and the constant worry lines around her eyes had finally started to fade. She looked like what she'd always been meant to be. Not a woman running from danger, but someone who belonged exactly where she was. "Morning, beautiful," Jake said as she climbed the porch steps. "Morning yourself, handsome." Maria stood on her tiptoes to kiss him, and Jake marveled again at how perfectly she fit in his arms. "You guys are always kissing now," Lily announced, bursting through the front door. But she was grinning as she said it, and she immediately launched herself into Maria's arms for a hug. "Good morning to you too, little miss," Maria laughed, spinning Lily around. "Are you ready for our big adventure today?" They'd been planning this trip for weeks. The county fair was in full swing, and Lily had been talking about it nonstop. But Jake had his own reasons for wanting to go. He patted the small box in his jacket pocket nervously. After 6 months of officially dating, 3 months of saying, "I love you," and countless conversations about their future together, he was ready to make it permanent. The fair was everything a 7-year-old could dream of. Lily dragged them from the petting zoo to the ring toss game, demanding they win her a giant stuffed bear. She ate cotton candy until her face was sticky and pink, and talked Maria into riding the spinning teacups 3 times in a row. Jake followed behind them, content to watch his 2 favorite people in the world having the time of their lives. "She's getting so big," Maria said softly as they watched Lily try her hand at the duck pond game. "Sometimes I can't believe how much she's grown just since I've known her." "She's not the only one who's grown," Jake said, meaning it. The frightened woman who'd cleaned his house 6 months ago was gone, replaced by someone confident and secure in her place in the world. "You've become exactly who you were meant to be." Maria smiled and leaned against his shoulder. "I never thought I could feel this safe again. This happy." "Speaking of happy," Jake said, his heart starting to pound, "I have something I want to ask you." But before he could continue, Lily came running over with her prize, a small plastic ring from the duck pond game. "Look what I won. The man said I could make a wish on it." "That's wonderful, baby girl," Jake said, trying to keep his voice steady. "What are you going to wish for?" Lily looked at the ring seriously, then at Maria, then at Jake. "I wish that Maria could be my real mama. Not just my friend who comes over, but my actual mama who lives here forever and ever." The fairground seemed to go quiet around them. Jake looked at Maria and saw tears forming in her eyes. This wasn't how he planned to do this, but maybe it was exactly how it was meant to happen. Jake knelt down to Lily's level and pulled out the small velvet box he'd been carrying. "What if I told you that wish could come true?" Lily's eyes went wide as Jake opened the box to reveal a simple diamond ring. "Is that what I think it is?" she whispered loudly enough for half the county fair to hear. Jake stood up and took Maria's hand. Her face was a mixture of shock, joy, and tears. "Maria Santos-chan," he said, his voice carrying clearly in the evening air. "6 months ago, you came to clean my house and ended up cleaning out my heart. You've made me remember what love feels like, and you've given Lily the mother she's been wishing for. Will you marry us? Both of us?" Lily chimed in helpfully, "Because I want to be part of the wedding, too." Maria was crying openly now, but she was also laughing. "Yes," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Yes to both of you. Yes to forever." Jake slipped the ring onto her finger, and the small crowd that had gathered around them burst into applause. Lily jumped up and down, clapping her hands with pure joy. "So can I call you Mama now?" Lily asked, bouncing on her toes with excitement. Maria knelt down and took Lily's small hands in hers. "I would be honored to be your mama, sweetheart. I've been waiting for you to ask." "Really? You have? Since the very first day I met you," Maria said, pulling Lily into a tight hug. "When you asked your daddy if you could call me Mama, part of my heart hoped that someday it would be true." Jake watched his two girls hold each other and felt his own eyes fill with tears. Who would have thought that a simple cleaning job would lead to this perfect moment? 1 year later, on a perfect spring morning, much like the day they'd first hiked to Crystal Falls, Jake and Maria were married in the same meadow where they'd fallen in love. Lily served as both flower girl and ring bearer, wearing a blue dress that matched her eyes and a smile that could have powered the whole county. As they exchanged vows under the Montana sky, with wildflowers blooming around them and the sound of Crystal Falls in the distance, Jake thought about the journey that had brought them here. From that first shocking moment, when Lily asked if she could call Maria Mama, to this day when it was finally legally wonderfully true. "You may kiss the bride," the preacher announced. And as Jake kissed his new wife, he heard Lily's voice ring out clear and happy above the applause of their friends and neighbors. "Now she's really my mama forever." And she was. They all were exactly where they belonged, a family forged not by blood or circumstance, but by choice, by love, and by the courage to believe that sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. The little girl who had once asked a stranger if she could call her Mama now had her wish, and a man who had forgotten how to hope had found his heart again. Their story had begun with cleaning, but it ended with something much more precious, a love that would last forever.